and welcome to the 5th episode of MCUEx, your number one source for MCU news, reviews, and discussion. I'm Addie Hays, and with me today are Doug Herring and Jeremy Stewart.
Hey, everybody.
Hi, guys.
First up on today's show, the weekly headlines, where we run down the biggest news of the week and get in as much discussion as we can before the timer runs out. As a warning to viewers, this story contains a potential plot spoiler for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Recently, rumors have been circulating about Sons of Anarchy actor Tommy Flanagan joining the cast of Guardians of the Galaxy 2. Reports claim that Flanagan will be playing a Ravager, perhaps even Yondu's second-in-command. Furthermore, the rumors have claimed about the Ravagers will come into conflict with the Guardians due to a bounty on Rocket Raccoon. Variety has since confirmed that Flanagan has joined the cast, although his exact role and his conflict with Rocket remain just rumors. Guys, let's put 90 seconds on the clock and discuss this news.
I haven't watched all of Sons of Anarchy. I've watched the first couple seasons. I've heard it kind of gets iffy near the end there. But, I like Tommy Flanagan. He's a good actor, and I think it makes a lot of sense for him to join Guardians. I think he will be playing a Ravager. As far as the rumor about Rocket having a bounty on his head, I guess it makes sense. I mean, he's wanted for a bunch of crimes.
Well, didn't they all get like full pardons though at the end of Guardians 1? They got,
did. Yeah,
like,
that's true.
Full pardons.
That's true, but that's from the law. That doesn't mean that Rocket hasn't made some
Right. This is true.
Yeah.
I think he's a great choice. I think the world of Sons of Anarchy really fits with specifically the Ravagers world, which is kind of like the Ravagers are basically a motorcycle gang in space.
I mean, we were talking a couple episodes back about Steve Agee joining, and we said that he really fit with that world that James Gunn has created, and Tommy Flanagan,
just especially with Yondu as well. I feel like they all just kind of like mesh.
Yeah. I mean, I completely agree. I've never really watched Sons of Anarchy, like from what I see of him, and like from the what I know of the show, because one of my mom's friends really likes that show, and she talks about it a lot. But yeah, no, he seems like he fits in it really well. The whole second in command sounds like it could be true.
Now, that's an interesting... I kind of assumed from the first one that Kraglin, played by Sean Gunn, was his second in command, but maybe not.
Well, the interesting thing is Yondu kind of has gone against the rest of the Ravagers a little bit, so ittle be interesting to see if a second in command comes and says, no, we have to do it this way. What you're doing is out of the heart.
Yeah. That'd be cool. Yeah. Awesome. What's next?
After a Twitter exchange between a fan and Daredevil stunt coordinator Philip Silvera, MCUExchange has learned that Brett Chan has been tapped to serve as stunt coordinator for the upcoming Netflix show Iron Fist. Chan has previously served as stunt coordinator on Netflix original Marco Polo, as well as stunt performer on a long list of projects including X-Men 2, The Flash, and Arrow. What does this news tell us about what we should expect to see from Iron Fist? Let's put 90 seconds on the clock and discuss.
Say what you want about Marco Polo. There's a bunch of different opinions about it. The fight scenes in it are
That's what I heard. That's like the one thing.
And it's really, really cool. And the other cool thing about him having been on Arrow and The Flash and X-Men 2 is he knows the world of superheroes. He knows how powerful to make a punch or a kick depending on who the person is and what's happening. So I'm really excited to see what he does, with especially such a martial arts heavy show like Iron Fist. I think he's a very, very good choice.
I agree. If you haven't watched Marco Polo, I don't know that I can recommend it as a show. Yeah. But there are two things that are amazing from that show, and it's the cinematography and the fight.
The fights. Sorry, continue.
No, that's exactly. And so to have him come into Iron Fist, it really gives us an idea of what kind of flavor the fights will have in Iron Fist, and it's in capable hands.
Yeah, and also that, we were talking about diversity last week with the cast of Finn Jones, and it's like they're hiring a guy who helped work on Marco Polo, so it will have a kind of good Asian.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I think when you talk about diversity, the most visible place to do it is in casting. But you're absolutely right. There's also a lack of diversity in the crew and in writing and directing.
I think that's really important because then they know more about
and the other cool thing, and it goes along with it being in Marco Polo, is it is an Asian style of fighting that they use in Marco Polo, which is what you need for Iron Fist.
Absolutely.
Totally agree.
Awesome. What's next?
We're about 2 months away from Captain America's Civil War, but there's already been positive buzz from people who have gotten to see the movie. Devin Fakari of Birth Movies Death has been hearing some very good things about the movie and shared it with the world. He said the following: I've had the luck to speak to a couple of people who have seen recent screenings of Civil War, and what they said about it has gotten me so excited for the film. I've been told that Spider-Man is great, that Black Panther is phenomenal, and that the last half hour of the film is brutal, both physically and emotionally. One person told me that the last act plays out as an emotional horror movie because the film gives both Tony and Steve solid reasoning, and because it truly makes you feel the depths of this schism. Guys, how do Devin's comments affect your excitement for Civil War? Let's put 90 seconds on the clock and discuss.
So, first off, Devin Faraci of Birth Movies Death. I just want to, it's totally fine. But go ahead. Go with your
That
second.
really excites me, actually. I was talking to one of my acting teachers about this story yesterday because he's kind of like now fallen out. He feels like he's growing up and like superhero movies are getting kind of like cheesy and he's just getting older from it. But this makes it sound so much more than just like superheroes fighting each other. This is more like an emotional roller coaster about like them going against each other, which...
Because the Russos originally said something along the lines of it being more of a psychological thriller.
Yes.
Which is what they did with Cap 2, which was put it in a category first and then layer in the superhero.
Right.
It seems like, especially Birth Movies Death is a place I trust. Mm-hmm. And it seems like from what Devin said, they're doing the same thing where, hey, let's make a psychological thriller, let's make it good, and layer in Cap and everyone, and those are just our characters we get to work with.
I agree.
Really
and something that really got me excited is his comments about the last half hour giving Tony and Steve really clear rationale, because that was one thing that the comics did horribly. Yeah. Tony Stark was clearly the villain of that story. There really wasn't a lot of... It was a clearly right side and a clearly wrong side. It wasn't like you could see where both was coming from. So if the movies can make that happen, in my mind, they're already better than the comics.
And I was just going to say one little thing. Even the trailers still don't make Tony look like the villain, too.
No,
so
you're right.
That's good that it's not just the trailer seems like that.
Absolutely.
All right, so far we have seen very little of Scarlet Witch in the marketing for Captain America Civil War. She's only made brief appearances in trailers and has been kept out of some promotional art that features the rest of the gang. However, some recent pieces of concept art for the character have brought Wanda Maximoff to the forefront, showing off her new costume and magical powers. Let's put 90 seconds on the clock and discuss this new look of Scarlet Witch.
I think we've been really, really lucky with costumes for a while, because we've talked about a few of them last week. We talked about Daredevil this week, Scarlet Witch, and they all look awesome.
They really do.
She looks exactly what I imagined the physicalized version of the character.
They're really getting superhero costumes nailed down perfectly this past couple of years.
They are, and one thing that Scarlet Witch's costume has in the comics that would not work on screen is it's very sexualized.
Yes. Just a little bit.
Yeah. And hey, that's fine for the comics, I guess. It wouldn't work for the movies.
No, not at all.
But this looks like the comic book costume without looking ridiculous.
Yeah, absolutely.
It looks cool. It looks great.
Mm-hmm.
And the concept art showing her powers is really awesome.
That's one of the biggest things I really want to see more of is her powers.
I'm excited to see her and hopefully Vision face off against each other, because these are, I think, right now, two of the most powerful people in the MCU.
Yeah.
Maybe Thor.
I think Thor right now takes the cake.
But he's not there.
But he's not there, right.
So,
certainly in this movie,
right.
Scarlet Witch and Vision are going to be the two powerhouses.
And plus, they're two brand new, and like we haven't seen that much of Wanda.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, so we have no idea what exactly
we've seen, 15 minutes of her powers, maybe at the end.
Yeah. And of course, at this point, they know a little bit more about them, but I don't think they know their full potential both as superheroes.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, that's a very good point, too.
Mm-hmm. So I think that's why she's being hidden away.
Cool.
All right, so last week, that hashtag show reported that Finn Jones had been cast as Iron Fist, a rumor which has since been confirmed. However, a new rumor suggests we might be seeing Danny Rand make an appearance before Iron Fist premiere. During a recent appearance on Collider Heroes, Humberto Gonzalez claimed that Iron Fist would make his debut in the final episode of Luke Cage and had been filming the previous week. While this story should be treated as an unconfirmed rumor and taken with a big grain of salt, what do we think about the possibility of Iron Fist showing up in Luke Cage? Let's put 90 seconds on the clock and discuss.
I don't believe it. Humberto Gonzalez has a spotty track record.
Yeah.
And his site, Heroic Hollywood, is decent site. They credit where it's due. They've gotten some things right. But the way he said that on Collider Heroes kind of made it sound like he was just guessing. And it doesn't really make sense to me to have Danny Rand, whose reappearance in the world is going to be so important in his own show, just like show up a year or half a year before in the final episode of Luke Cage. It just doesn't make sense to me.
Also, it doesn't make sense to me, but I think like if it were true, but I still big grain of salt, they would handle it really well. Like maybe.
Yeah, I'm not saying it can't be done, but it doesn't
still
sound.
At the same time.
I also think we would have heard something from just news, from any rumor about Finn Jones having been cast.
Well, I think that's
Humberto
Gonzalez. He's saying that is why the trades announced it, because he was filming, so it was going to get leaked. However, that's not true, because the trades announced it because that hashtag show broke it, and we know, because we've talked to those guys, they didn't find out because he was filming for Luke Cage. They found out through other means.
Right.
So his theory that the trades announced it because
he's filming. I don't think it's happening.
Yeah, if he was filming, I still don't think that was why they announced it. Yeah.
I don't think so either.
But I
still
don't think he's
in
filming.
it.
But hey, maybe he is, and if he is, that'd be cool.
Yeah. So last week, Empire Magazine reported that Gwyneth Paltrow would be reprising her role as Pepper Potts for Captain America: Civil War. However, gossip site Lainey Gossip has said otherwise, claiming Paltrow's contract with Marvel has ended, and Marvel decided it was too expensive to get her to appear. While Lainey Gossip has had a somewhat successful track record on these types of stories in the past, this report does seem to be in direct contradiction with other reliable sources. With these conflicting reports, do we think Pepper will be in Civil War? Let's put 90 seconds on the clock and discuss. It would be fine if she wasn't in it. I don't think so.
Here's the thing. Lainey Gossip's gotten stuff right in the past, but Empire and Entertainment Weekly and those big magazines, they have access. They do set visits. They confirm with Disney things, and Disney tells them things. So if they're reporting that she is, I tend to think that she is.
That's true.
But I'm kind of with you. Whether she is or not, I don't think matters too much.
I don't think it'll be a big role.
Yeah.
It might be like one scene.
Yeah.
And even that one scene might be cut anyway.
Yeah, and I also think that, the way they handled her not showing up in Age of Ultron, with him just saying, oh yeah, she's running Stark Industries.
And they were like, oh, Jane's off doing
winning a Nobel Prize or something.
Whatever.
Jokes.
Right. I think that was a fine way to do it, and I don't really think that unless it's another Captain America, if it's another Iron Man solo movie, then we need to see Pepper again. But other than that,
I think we'll be okay. I think she's going to be in it. I agree with you that I trust Empire in the more official roads over gossip column.
Yeah.
Then again, if she's not, I'm not missing her.
Yeah,
frankly.
I hear you.
I'm not missing Pepper.
It's the same thing with Jane Foster. Not really going to miss them both. It's just...
Yeah.
Yes. Watch episode 1 of MCUEx for our thoughts on Jane Foster.
We go off a little too much on Jane Foster.
Okay, what's next?
In a co-exclusive story with that hashtag show, the same people who first broke that Finn Jones had been cast as Iron Fist, MCUExchange and that hashtag show can independently confirm that Marvel and Netflix are in the midst of casting Shang-Chi for Iron Fist, which we're told is set to begin production in April. Additionally, in case anyone had concerns, they are exclusively auditioning males of Asian descent. The son of 70s pulp kung fu villain Fu Manchu, Shang-Chi has worked with British intelligence as an agent of MI6 and alongside Luke Cage and Danny Rand as a hero for hire. More recently, he has been an Avenger and, interestingly enough, a significant part of the Shadowland arc that many people are anticipating will be adapted to the Netflix series. Guys, let's put 90 seconds on the clock and discuss this story.
I think it's great. From what we've seen this week of people flying off the handle for the Finn Jones casting, I think this is the perfect way to represent but also because the thing is Finn Jones or Danny Rand in the comics, is a white male.
He is, yeah.
And Shang-Chi in the comics is an Asian male, and I love the fact that they're including him. he's just an awesome character.
He really is. And I think that conversation about race, which is absolutely a valid one to have, and one that really deserves to be had in more than a minute and a half.
Yes.
All of that aside, Shang-Chi's just an awesome character.
Mm-hmm.
He's like this badass James Bond type, and also a master of kung fu.
Mm-hmm.
You can't get cooler than that. And he's a perfect fit for that Netflix world to have him show up in Iron Fist. I can't wait to see who they pick.
Yeah, I can't either. There was just IMDb just released one of their like lists that they do of like the top 40 like young Asian actors. I was like 40 under 40 or something, and I read through the list, and I was like, because I had heard the rumor of this, and I was like, there's a lot of people who could do a great job with this.
Yeah, MCUExchange actually ran last week. I think they ran a really, really interesting piece of just a list of actors who could play Shang-Chi.
Right.
And there are some good names on there.
Yeah, there's a bunch of people who I would be very excited to see take this role. But the point being is I'm more excited that this role now exists.
Yeah.
I think it's going to do a lot for the Iron Fist show.
Mm-hmm.
I think Shang-Chi and Danny Randall have a really cool, maybe brotherly relationship, but where they butt heads a lot too.
Trying to like maybe one up each other.
Yeah, which will be cool for the series.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right, what's next?
The season finale of Agent Carter, titled Hollywood Ending, aired earlier this week as Peggy and Jarvis had their final showdown against Whitney Frost. For an in-depth discussion about this episode, make sure to listen to our sister podcast, It's All Connected, on MCUExchange.com. But in the meantime, let's discuss our initial thoughts about this episode. A little let down. To be totally honest.
Yeah, I hear you.
I mean, I read your review, and I really agree on all your points. Whitney Frost's demise was kind of
anticlimactic.
Yeah, it was like a machine took her powers, and that was it.
Yeah, not much of a fight.
Yeah, they all just kind of played tug of war.
Well, and the funny thing, I felt like you could see in that scene specifically where she's losing the zero matter, you could see that their effects budget had run out. Like the effects, the funny thing, I think the zero matter effects up until that point were great, and then I was like, whoa.
The shot that I noticed it on is when she gets hit with the gamma cannon, and that shot when the zero matter is leaving her and going into the
it reminded me
or whatever.
It literally reminded me of like a comic book, like it was drawn in, it wasn't like realistic, which.
Yeah, I mean, it had some good moments, but,
but just
as a season finale and possibly a series
finale, that's where it really killed.
Yeah. And you know, I really liked the ending of season 1 because I was happy it got a season 2, but it didn't need one. That end when Peggy dumps the vial of Steve's blood off the Brooklyn Bridge. It's such a poignant ending, and it really makes it feel complete, where if we never see Peggy again, it's a nice farewell to her character.
Yeah.
The end of this was a cliffhanger, and that really saddens me because I don't think it's going to get a season 3. Certainly not on ABC.
Yeah.
Maybe elsewhere, but it's not going to.
Especially with the Hunter series
with Most Wanted.
Most Wanted. Thank you.
Yeah. So if it doesn't get a season 3, then it becomes Marvel's first failure. Because this is clearly something that they designed to have a third season. Yeah. Spoiler alert if you haven't seen the episode. Jack Thompson gets shot by a mystery person.
Was kind of happy about it, though, if they had a season.
Yeah, I don't like Thompson, but whatever. I have my own pet theory.
Let's be honest, though. He's not dead.
Yes.
He's not dead.
Right.
He's not dead.
That's true.
It's Marvel.
But anyway, they ended it on a cliffhanger, which means if we never find out the results of that cliffhanger, I mean, that is just like any other show that gets canceled unexpectedly, ending on a cliffhanger with these just unresolved plots. And we have unanswered plot threads. We don't know exactly what happened to the leader in Incredible Hulk. Right. We don't know exactly where Emil Blonsky is. I'd love to see Gravitonium show up on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. again. But nothing's been completely abandoned. It all has the possibility of coming back. And if Agent Carter gets canceled, this is a time where there's going to be an entire world of stories and characters that are just forgotten forever. And that's tragic. I
mean, just like with the whole history of the file, like they showed it so many times in the finale close up. And like it's kind of sad because I read a tweet before it aired that was like, it's a great way if it is the ending of the show. And then watching it, I was like,
it's really not. It's really not.
I disagree in some sense.
Well, I mean,
though.
like, I think Peggy herself has a good ending. That's the one thing for the character herself. It's a good ending. She gets with Sousa. I really liked it. It was a great makeout sesh. She was super pumped about it. Her and Wilkes had a good, like, adult, like, this ain't gonna work. But it was cool.
Yeah, it was nice the way they resolved that. New York City, everybody.
There's a loud horn outside.
I don't know if you guys can hear it. But...
I think it. Yeah, I agree that if this is the end, it's too bad. But again, I feel like it was as good of a button as they could have put on it.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
And then and again, it's the MCU.
Yeah.
It's all connected.
Yeah.
They could always do another Agent Carter one shot.
They can do a one shot to
show.
close things up.
movie.
Yeah,
just to clean things up. Maybe. Who knows?
All right. Well, anyway, what's next?
So, our next segment this episode is our main discussion of the day, where we debate something about the future of the MCU. In just a few days, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. will return to ABC for the second half of Season 3, featuring the team of Inhumans known as the Secret Warriors. Currently, the team consists of Daisy, Lincoln, and Joey Gutierrez, who have the powers to make earthquakes, control lightning, and melt metal, respectively. We also know that Slingshot, an Inhuman with super speed, will be appearing in next week's episode. This is rounding out to become a super powerful team, but it's safe to assume more members will be added as the season goes on. So, our topic for the day is which Inhuman needs to be a part of Secret Warriors?
First off, just Joey's little glasses flip thing in the promo. The one is awesome.
Yeah.
I just want to point that out. It is so cool. But anyways, to answer the question,
Right.
I'm going to go with an Inhuman called Arcadius. And this is partially because, one, I think he's got some cool power where he can control and communicate through statues, which is strange. And one of the reasons I like it so much is because we don't really see that in any comic book adaptation, really. Like, we've seen people control lightning. We've seen a lot of these powers before. Arcadius, frankly, we haven't really seen at all. We've never seen someone say, ooh, look, there's a statue, I'm going to control it.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, I don't think he can be that powerful, which the thing is, with the Secret Warriors right now can take on a lot.
Yeah.
Like, those are three...
They could take most of the event.
Yeah. Like, they're really, really, really strong. And I think part of Season 3, or the second half of Season 3, might be Marvel trying to figure out how to balance these guys, because right now they should all be in Avengers uniforms.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is...
Well, I don't know. Some of them are still trying to figure out their powers.
Yeah,
like,
but so are the Avengers.
That's true.
Falcon was
We
an
just
Avenger.
talked about how Scarlet Witch and Vision don't know the full extent
and
of their
Falcon.
powers.
I mean,
That's
frankly,
true.
if you want an Avenger over Falcon, who really just has an awesome backpack, take someone who can control lightning or make earthquakes or melt metal.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
But, I mean, they are younger. Besides Scarlet Witch, she's the youngest Avenger, I would think, besides...
Yeah.
Well, technically,
Spidey.
Vision would be.
Well,
Okay, well, he's...
Vision's also, is he a person?
Like, what?
Not really.
What is he?
But
But
well,
they
okay.
are all younger.
And
Well, so Spider-Man.
Well, I know that's the one thing, but, like, we don't know
but
about Spider-Man.
My
okay?
point being is that I think the Secret Warriors are a little too powerful.
Okay.
And I think if we're going to introduce new Inhumans, they have to have restrictions, or their powers can't be all just unchecked.
That's a fair point. I agree with you, but I think that rather than trying to balance out powers, it'd be cool to balance out personalities. And so for my pick, I think it'd be cool to see Jerry Sledge, a.k.a. Stonewall. Now, he's not an Inhuman in the comics, but then again, neither is Daisy, neither is Joey. Well, Joey's not a character in the comics, but Yo-Yo Rodriguez isn't an Inhuman, so it doesn't matter. But he's a member of the Secret Warriors in the comics, and he's the son of Carl Creel, the Absorbing Man. We've seen the Absorbing Man. He was played by kind of a young-looking guy, but we know he's not that young because he fought Matt Murdock's dad, so he's clearly old enough to have a son. And it would be cool if whatever gave him his powers sort of was genetically passed on to his son and then activated by Terrigenesis, so that he's sort of an Inhuman influenced by genetics. I'm basically a mutant, but we can't use the word mutant. Right. But so Sledge has basically the same powers as his father. He can turn his skin into whatever thing he touches. He's super durable. And the fact that he's the son of a villain who, from the promos, it looks like we're going to see return. I think it sets him up to appear and to have a really, really interesting dynamic with the rest of the team.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm kind of the same way that, like, I'm going off of, like, a little bit more personality. I would say one of the fan favorites of Squirrel Girl. She'd be the youngest addition because she's not an adult. And the whole, like, Terrigenis thing, we haven't seen someone, like, physically, like, their body have a change in a while.
Well, we've seen Reyna.
Yeah.
I know, but, it's been a little
She was
and Lash.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Never mind. Well, I lied about that. Anyway, I was only thinking of Reyna, but, okay. But she has a tail.
Yes.
So, like...
Are you picking somebody just because she has a tail, Addie?
Okay, I really like Squirrel Girl. Like, she has her own squirrels.
I know.
Like, she's just an awesome character. But no, like, she's this cheery, like, young girl that I think would be a great kind of more, like, young, immature part of the group. Because we have Daisy. Daisy was kind of like that initially. She was young, didn't really know what she was doing.
Back in season 1, she was a
But now she's kind of like the leader.
Yeah.
And, like, if we want more females, like, if we want more diversity, we can have, like, a younger... There's age diversity, too, because they all seem kind of the same age.
Oh, yeah, like 20 or 30-something attractive
so, like,
people.
If we had, like,
I mean,
a late
it is a
teens,
TV show.
I know. But, like, if we had,
Yeah,
like,
I
this,
see
like,
what you're
young,
saying.
like, kind of a little more comedic side, too. And, like, she's also a fan favorite, so I think it would draw more viewers as well.
I don't think Squirrel Girl...
I know, yeah.
I don't know.
The people who want to see Squirrel Girl are already watching Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
I guess so.
But
and
your
also,
point...
I also don't see her... Right now, I guess, in the current Avengers, I don't see how she would be placed.
I agree. But your point about her taking the same kind of role that Skye took in season 1 is the exact reason that I never want to see it.
Yeah.
Skye, Daisy, is my favorite part. Maybe not my favorite. I love you, Fitz. But Daisy's one of my favorite parts of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. now. Back in season 1, she was my least favorite part.
Yeah.
But no, that's also because, I don't know, the acting as well for her was not the best, so I think
Chloe
that
Bennett
was
has really improved.
And also the writing, but the Squirrel Girl is a little bit more different because she's more like happy-go-lucky, successful, like, cheery. I don't think those were exactly what, not Daisy, Skye was.
Right. I think the problem with casting a teenager, and I think they're going to run into this with Spider-Man. No, not even casting a teenager. A teenage character is the problems that teenage character deals with are all the problems that we kind of don't want to see. I don't want to see any teen drama in this show.
There's not going to be because she's
part of the secret. Like if
she was going to be
the problem is
there's no other teenagers in the show.
No, but she's going to end up liking some guy. She's going to end up.
You can say that they won't do that though. If they
on a major
network
show. On a major network show.
That's what I'm saying. You can't say that for sure that they're going to like start just having these bunches of teenagers and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
I'm not saying that.
I'm not going to say they're going to have bunches of teenagers. My problem is when they have a teenager, the problem that person deals with are teenage problems. Do you get what?
Yeah, but it's a different
turns...
take on like dealing with Terrigenesis. Like we've kind of seen the same.
Yeah, okay. But here's the thing, and I see what you're saying. You could turn Terrigenesis as a metaphor for puberty, like it's a metaphor for everything else. That's fine. Here's, just from a practical standpoint, Squirrel Girl is an expensive character.
I know, that's the one thing.
She has an army of squirrels. You can't train squirrels to follow her. So they need to listen, they need to be CGI squirrels.
Yeah, and TV, like even Game of Thrones, like they have like the biggest TV budget.
And the dragons don't always look
like
sometimes.
Well, and there's a reason we haven't seen a lot of the dragons.
Right.
And so when we do, it's
if Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is going to face a ballooning CGI budget for a character, I'd like to see it on a power cooler than squirrels.
Yeah. And the other thing is they already have so many powers to deal with in their budget that it will be hard.
It's already occasionally not looked great. Some of Lincoln's lightning looks a little bit
Spider-Man. But isn't Secret Warriors all Inhumans anyway? Like they're all gonna have powers. It's gonna take
some CGI, some powers are more CGI heavy than others.
Yeah, and some are a lot easier to animate and to make.
I'm aware of that.
Yeah. But I think that we've already seen what Sledge's powers would look like because we've seen Absorbing Man. He looked awesome.
Yeah. And I think
I don't know. It's also like the powers in the Secret Warriors right now are kind of like not generic, but they're kind of like they're pretty normal superpowers. We had superpowers like
what's wrong with that though?
I know, but that's what I'm just saying, like, to give a little bit more diversity to it, and like I think she would be a great way for Terra Genesis with the tail.
My other one problem with Squirrel Girl is that I don't feel like she fits in the world. I feel like our world of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is a little darker than... Not darker, but it's a little more serious.
It takes itself a little bit more seriously than Squirrel Girl.
If I make the comparison, it'd be season 1 and 2 of Arrow more so than season 1 and 2 of The Flash.
I disagree. I actually think it's much more similar to The Flash.
Yeah.
Then again...
Okay, we'll have this conversation later.
Fair enough.
You introduce Squirrel Girl, a girl who has pet squirrels following her around, and that's how...
So good to me.
No, it sounds great, but not in the world of Hive, and not in the world where they've gone to other dimensions in a very kind of realistic manner of a much bigger, like, oh shit, this is happening, balloon, and then you have, oh wait, let's bring in some squirrels. I love Squirrel Girl. I think she's awesome. I think she actually might end up in the MCU. I don't think she fits in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
I agree with you. I also like how this started as a who should join the Secret Warriors and turned into thoughts on Squirrel Girl.
Yeah.
We have not even mentioned your pick.
Because
he's a dude that controls statues. How could that be interesting?
Because
it doesn't interest me at all.
I think there's a very cool thing you can do with define a statue. Because if this guy can be counted as a statue.
So you get that like crappy scene in Transformers 2 when the cell phones turn into these Decepticons.
Wait. If he can control statues of all shapes and sizes, really I think the cool thing would be him communicating through statues. So if he's at base and they don't have to rely on like radio and technology and they can rely on little statues, I think it'd be...
I'm not convinced.
I think it would be an interesting power solely because, 1, we've never seen it before. 2, I don't think the budget would be that big. And 3, it's just not...
I think it could be cool for one episode.
Yeah, that may be fair.
I don't think it would ever work as a permanent member of the team.
That might be true.
With that, let's move on.
Let's move on.
So for our last segment of the day, we're taking some of your questions from Facebook and Twitter and answering them on the show. If you have a question that you want to see answered, make sure to follow us on Facebook and Twitter and ask your question using the hashtag MCUEx. Our first question comes from Starglooms on Twitter, who asks, how do you think the MCU should go about being more representative in terms of gender, race, etc.? Well, I think they kind of are already. Like, they're taking, like, I mean, we already just talked about it with Iron Fist. Like, they are getting Asian actors.
They're getting there. They have taken their sweet, sweet time.
That's true.
I think there's a big problem if Agent Carter gets canceled because the 2 showrunners on that are women.
Yeah.
It's written by mostly women. I will be very disappointed if that... And I think this season they've done a really good job with the period in gender politics and race politics.
I disagree on race because they've treated it really inconsistently. Yeah. Where sometimes race is an issue, sometimes nobody
but then again, I don't think it was too heavy-handed. It wasn't like, here's your race.
Fair.
I would be disappointed if that show disappears and isn't replaced by something with the same issue.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. But I agree with both of you that, they are already starting to incorporate a lot of diversity, but yes, they're taking their sweet time with it.
But they've been taking, like, other shows have not been doing that, so you have to, like...
Well, you say that, but, I mean, look at the leads on Flash and Arrow.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not all white dudes.
Yeah.
Legends of Tomorrow.
Especially just, like, in Hollywood in general. It is still a lot of, like, just... white dudes.
Oh, so, absolutely.
I mean, the thing is, it always will be.
Yeah.
But I think when you have something as powerful as the MCU, all of it, between movies, TV, Netflix, I think they could have done a much better job. I think there's some casting choices that I really wish could have gone to people who aren't straight white men.
Well, okay.
Well, that's also an issue with comic books themselves, though.
It is, yes. And it's an issue with the source material. But what I'll say is that Marvel needed. I think that the argument you often hear when it comes to casting straight white dudes is that financially it's a big risk to cast anything else.
If you look at what they've said about Gods of Egypt and the director of the one with Jake Gyllenhaal, it was like not Prince of Persia. There was another movie.
Prince of Persia was.
There was another movie where someone
you're talking
said
about
it was
Egypt, Gods and Kings, or whatever, Ridley Scott,
and where he said, "I can't cast that quote." He was like,
he said nobody's going to see a movie starring Muhammad such and such from so and so country or something like that. Yeah, but here's the thing: Marvel's brand has gotten to the point where that's no longer a factor.
Yeah,
because people will go see a movie about trees and people who can shrink to the size of ants just because it has Marvel's name. So now that they've built up the brand, they can take bigger risks like Black Panther, like Captain Marvel. So to answer your question, Starglims, I think that now that the brand is big enough, they can start taking those risks, and I think we're going to start seeing it.
Yeah, I agree. I think they're getting there. Cool. I wish they did a better job, but they're getting there.
Awesome. What's next?
Cool. Brandon Pease on Twitter asks, how do you think Marvel will incorporate their television shows into the films? I mean, I feel like maybe I've talked about with you guys outside of this, but if anywhere, I think it would be in Infinity Wars. If they had another fight in New York, then maybe we would see Jessica Jones and Luke Cage like doing a little bit of stuff, or Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. kind of helping out a little bit. But I don't know.
I don't think they will.
But and that's, I don't know, for me, that is the one place that if they were to incorporate, they'd want their biggest movies. Because haven't they said what? It's like, no, we're not having like 67 characters, we're having like 68 characters.
I agree with you. I think...
Where are those 68 characters?
I don't know if it's going to happen, but if it happens, that's the place.
Yeah. I also we've talked about this before. There's interesting the what Jeff Loeb has said about
the studios,
the studio system and the Hollywood system of having just actors and SAG and union rules of contracts and whatnot and rights issues.
It makes it tough.
It makes it really tough. I think they've done a really good job of acknowledging each other, and I don't think we're really going to see any more than that.
Yep.
Cool. What's next?
Our last question of the day at the Iron Noodle on Twitter asks, question for the crew. Do you think there's any chance for Daredevil to be in Civil War or some connection to it in Season 2?
Well, as far as the connection in Season 2 goes, no, because Daredevil Season 2 takes place before Civil War. The Netflix shows seem to take place about when the production on them starts, not when they air. Which means that Daredevil Season 2 is going to be taking place like right after Age of Ultron. It's kind of weird. But even if it was taking place when it was released, it's still taking place like 2 months before, or a month and a half before Civil War. So I don't think we'll see much of a tie-in in Season 2. Go ahead.
I think if there were to be a tie-in in Netflix, it would be after Civil War and see how the repercussions of Civil War affect Luke Cage, because Luke Cage will be coming out afterward. Or if anyone...
No, because Luke Cage, if it takes place when it started production, Luke Cage is going to be taking place like 6 months before Civil War. We probably won't see it until The Defenders.
But
it's going to affect afterward.
But that timeline makes it confusing enough that I don't really think we'll ever see too much of acknowledgement on the Netflix side of the movies, because they are not... The movies pretty much take place chronologically for when they come out, with the exception of some of the Phase 1 movies that take place all within like a week of each other. But since the Avengers, they've pretty much just taken place in order. Netflix and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. kind of slides into there.
Right. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., especially first season, was waiting on Cap 2. Has done... And I think because, again, it's ABC and not Netflix, and it airs weekly, they have to do a better job of the timeline.
Yeah.
But also, because it airs weekly, again, one of the ways the Netflix model works is a lot like a movie, where they write the entire series, film it all, and then release it. Whereas the major network shows will write episode to episode and then be like, oh, let's change this character, this is happening now, let's pull from these timelines.
Right.
And they have the opportunity to shoot that way.
And then to answer the other question, is if there any chance for Daredevil to be in Civil War? I mean, we haven't heard
again, we would have heard.
I don't think so.
And like, it is in his contract, isn't it, to be in like one movie? But I don't.
Well, the contract just says that if they want him in a movie, he has to show up.
But we just haven't heard anything, and people have been on set, and they've talked about Spider-Man, and that's a way bigger secret than Daredevil.
I don't think Daredevil will show up. I think he might show up later, especially because it's Charlie Cox, and he's wonderful, but he also knows how to carry a movie.
Sure.
He's carried major films before.
Well, I don't know, carry
Stardust. Stardust is his vehicle.
Yeah.
It's him and Claire Danes, like, through the entire thing.
Fair enough.
Say what you want about that movie.
Right.
He did carry it, and I think he did a pretty good job for what he got to work with. Fuck it. Sorry.
Just stop talking.
Yeah. Completely lost it.
So.
Point being, probably not. Netflix makes it difficult.
Yeah. So that's the end of this week's episode of MCUEx, everybody. We want to give a huge thank you to our friends at Stone Street Studios for letting us film here, our friend Andy for letting us use his mic. If you like what you saw, make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube and check out MCUExchange.com for up-to-the-minute updates on everything related to the MCU. I'm Addie Hays. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Addie Bree.
I'm Jeremy Stewart. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Jeremy_Stewart. And I would like to thank the fan that corrected me last week for what Victoria Frost is, which is a beer, which makes so much sense in my mind. So thank you.
And I'm Doug Herring. Make sure to follow the MCU Exchange at the MCU Exchange on Twitter or just at MCU Exchange on Facebook.
And
we'll see you next week.
Bye, guys.
Bye.